Hello and welcome to Seton's Clutch, the oldest place in all of RTS. This is what the great TA for life used to say. It looks like we have an older replay. And you can discern this by looking at the players participating in this game. You will find many names who are not present anymore in the regular Seton's roster, not especially in the higher rated games. Probably half of these players are still active, and the other half have more or less entirely quit either the games entirely or at least Seton's. This was played in 2015, so there might be some slight changes to how the game is played, because there have been a number of important balance changes to the game since 2015. Namely, the single greatest difference here is going to be the utilization of the relocation upgrade from the commander. It kind of affects the build order from not only air but also both side players. Back then you didn't make Tech 2 power or Tech 3 power your own as sides, not even as air in the early game, because the relocation provided more energy, a lot more energy and mass for the same cost, so it was the way to go. But that's kind of a minor detail here. We're not going to study the build orders anyway, tutorials are for that, so I think this game is perfectly valid to be casted even now. The basic principles and the underlying mechanics are the exact same they've always been, though the meta might look a little bit different, and the quality of the players also might vary in some areas, which is kind of interesting, but we'll get to that. Anyway, as you can see, this is about as high rated Seton's games as there have ever been. Not maybe the absolute highest one, but we already have some of the greatest ever Seton's players participating in this game, at least 4 of them. So the absolute monster like roster would still have a couple names more here that are not present, such as Galactic Fear and Gray's Chariot and a few others. But this is pretty much as high as the quality of Seton's could have ever been, apart from some completely special occasions. I took this replay because, well, there's a distinctive lack of long Seton's games played at high ratings these days. It wouldn't be kind of played in a jokish way. I think this game is still played very seriously. That's something that doesn't happen these days. Well, I mean, shorter games are also nice, but and probably even like showcase better gameplay, but I prefer to cast long games because it leaves much more room to speculate, and especially about naval micro and so forth, and really take things slow and get into it, why things transpire the way that they do. For example, here we will introduce the players soon, but I'm already in a hurry because there's so much going on. Firstly, there's some Auroras from Patrick trying to harass Blackheart's ACU, and Laneless went for the island. So Doggler made his transport early and got the island, but here comes Laneless with a tank on board. This factory will not be completed, so Doggler might be in trouble here with this landing. This tank will crush these engineers and they can build a PD, build a factory, but he's AFKing, at least for the time being. Now he noticed. Is a bomber coming in as well, so Laneless went full aggression, and it gets spotted, but this Inti wears off, and yeah, the bomber comes from here, and as you can see, the factory did get completed because Laneless was AFKing for a little second. But these 3 NGs are already reclaiming it, so effectively Douglas lost the island, which is huge. But in comes the bomber, is trying to bomb this NG, and it predicted the trajectory of the pathing of the NG. Predicted the bomb landing spot and kills all of Laneless' own engineers. So he suicided his own drop. Oh well, he didn't suicide, this bomb killed him, this dumb bomber. Which is really unfortunate for Laneless, because Laneless here is the weaker player, and this would have been huge, this island steal would have been huge, but now since he did go for the transport and they didn't get the island, it's going to be really tough, as he is against a stronger position and a stronger player. But at least he did inflict some damage in the sense that Douglas' island was delayed. He had to make a second transport as well, or don't know if he had to make, but he made one anyway. Or is this the same actually? No, never mind. I think this is the same transport. Yeah, this is his initial transport, but it's delayed still a little bit. So, well, not very good, but could have been even worse. Anyway, here it looks like, yeah, the mass, we're not really interested about the mass. It went so and so. It's about 50-50 anyway. It doesn't really play a role. So things here are now stale. Both got the mass, and we can see here playstyle. Neither player Black Heart against Patrick, not bothering to make land units. It's pointless. I mean, these players would just stalemated here, and they would like sort of play themselves out of the game, because a mass investment in the units and playing some cat and mouse here in the middle, like two equal players, they will just make themselves irrelevant 15 minutes in the game. Meanwhile, everyone else ecos, and the navies, the oceans are the things that's the chief resource in Setons. Winning an ocean. And one ocean is like, that's half of the resources you can get on this map. 2-1 oceans and you can't lose anymore. So by going sort of aggressive Tech 1 land spam, especially against an equal player, without any coordinated plan to really roll over the front position. Here we can, by the way, see WMC pitching in some bombers trying to harass Foley, because Foley has the upper hand on Styre in air. So yeah, WMC looking to help here. That makes Styre not fall behind so quickly. This bomber is actually pretty good here. If it drops the bomb, which it doesn't for some reason, I think his targeting was a little late, and now laneless Inti is coming in. But Foley still forced the micro a little bit, maybe lose a little bit build power, the NG is splitting up, but doesn't really accomplish too much, so that was kind of fail. So anyway, these players here, yeah, they would play themselves out of the game, make them irrelevant, because if they would waste all this mass in the stupid units that don't really accomplish anything but a fight here, the mass input they can direct into helping an ocean after that fight will be irrelevant, because too insignificant, because both of these players, no matter the side, will have like quadruple mass production by then, so any low rate of frigates they can produce hardly makes a difference though. This is a more common approach back in the days, which I enjoyed more. That front players they knowingly didn't participate in the stupid brawl here. If it was somewhat obvious that it wasn't going to yield results, which is very different from the day where everybody just banks their head into this mid, like this lane. They make insane amount of Tech 1 land units and try to push through. Even when you look at the player positioning and balance on lanes, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But the build orders have also evolved in a way that creates so many units early on that you sort of have to play in a similar way. You get wiped off yourself. So it really, I think it dumps down front, makes it a little more predictable, as well as, well, makes it late game sometimes also less varying. Like one of the nice things about front is the flexibility to help either side or both sides if needed. But that kind of brawling here, which is a lot of the time also very pointless, reduces the impact that front can have on the games. So I enjoyed this approach that the games used to have more often, not always. And front rolling is definitely viable if you can inflict serious damage, but it's not enough if you simply like establish some down firebase here after fighting for 10 minutes with Tech 1 land units. It's wasted mass into something that didn't really accomplish anything for your team. Anyway, Dogler did use the transport. He had here drop engines here, and he made a naval proxy. This is early frigates factories, but Laneless has noticed it. We can discern it by the response that Laneless is cleverly making. He's already spamming factories and making Zuis. And the Zuis here are really good because they can, they will kill the torp launchers, they will kill the factories, and they will kill the engineers. Granted, the frigates are good against them, but Douglas has not yet. He's just built the factories. They haven't rolled any waves of frigates out yet. He has a couple frigates. Laneless will be able to produce similar amount of frigates here. Less factories, more BP. So overall, at this point, I think it looks good for Laneless. Dr. Baby slightly overextended here. Or he got scouted too early. He should have maybe put it a little bit farther back. So if this would have taken Laneless by surprise, then that wouldn't have been GG. But here Laneless saw it early enough, and the reaction is appropriate. And I think this looks good now for Laneless. And here is a drop by Dougler as well, but he's a little bit AFK. I think he's, well, not AFK, but his attention is here, or building a space, which is a little bit unfortunate. Laneless already has seen it and is building a PD. So PD just gets complete, and Dougler is a little bit late here, so it will get denied. Doesn't kill an X, so that drop didn't really accomplish what Dougler was looking out to do. By the way, it's funny, I still haven't had time to introduce the players. We'll maybe have time for that when the game is over. Alright, so now Laneless is pulling back a little bit, trying to accumulate forces and then roll over here in one swoop. It's a Tech 1 AC. You can build a Tech 1 torp launchers, but not very competitively. However, I think it's still not enough here. This is looking good for Laneless, and this sort of counterbalances the failure of grasping the island. If Dogda loses this position, then Laneless will be on quite equal grounds again, because this is a huge massive investment with Tech 1 torp launches. This many factories is thousands of mass. So if Dogda loses this, which it looks like he will, this Judas will rape these factories. This is a lot of reclaim left for Laneless, and also a lot of mass invested from Dougler that he didn't really get any value out of. That's going to be kind of nice. Here we have Rinse, also known as Napalm. Sort of stalemate here. Well, not a stalemate, but very standard play, just ecoing up, and he has no pressure doing anything else. He should win, we didn't see anyway. Here we have Foley is making assistance, is making Janus for Laneless. Janus coming in to kill these NGs, which will be huge. And a couple Tech 2 gunships going for the island. There's some Tech 1 Dougler quick to react like always. There are already traces here that denied the Stingers, and they do retreat, and we'll see. Okay, well, Foley's air is patrolling here, guarding the Stingers. Is not very concerned about Styre barging in and challenging him at the moment, and he won't be for quite a while, I suppose. Jane is coming in, bombing these. Well, that's nice. Now the BP is dead, so any chance that Dougler had he might have gotten away if he could have spammed enough Tech 1 torp launchers to kill the frigates, and after that the Tridents could have swooped off the Julius, but with the air help here it's not going to work. The Stingers are going to town on the frigates as well, and the Tridents, and yeah, that's over for this proxy base. But that's Douglas definitely not going to be wiped out of the water, at least, but this is kind of bad for him. I mean, this was a considerable investment, and now we can see both of these players are behind, so after this struggle both Laneless and Dougler could really use a breather and get themselves back to speed, because by now everybody else is like advanced to a more advanced stage of eco. These are the two guys who made most units now, less eco. Mostly uncapped Tech 2 mexes, which is not that great anymore at almost minute 14. But yeah, players are sequentially making their resource location upgrades. First air, then rock, then beach. So that's why Dougler doesn't need any. We can see he has resource location 3,500 power. He doesn't need any pigeons because he made the resource location off the overflow of resource location from here. Air does it first, and now this is the perfect example of what happens when you play aggressively and you fail. This is nothing to do with Dougler per se. I mean, Dougler is one of the greatest players ever. especially on Setons, but this is why I advocate a lot of noobs to avoid playing aggressively unless they know very specifically what they are doing, because aggressive play is, if you do it, you have to succeed. Otherwise, it's going to be very bad, and it's going to fuck up your own team. So this is a classic example of what happens when you provoke a response from your opponent, and that provoked response turns against your own self. If Doctor didn't make this drop here, this naval proxy, Laneless wouldn't have made Zuis. There's no reason why he would make Zuis other than trying to drop, but against a player like Doctor, maybe not so well. Okay, well, they have air control, so it could work, but he might have not have thought, okay, I want to drop this game, or he probably didn't feel like it's really worth it against a much stronger player, because it's kind of risky. If you fail with your drops, it's a lot of mass invested for no damage. But here he was forced to make the Zuis. And now, okay, the situation is pretty clear. What does he do? He has leftover Zuis. He requests some transports from Foley, and he loads them up and flies in. So Doctor is going to suffer from these drops. The one here failed, but this one is successful because his own aggression failed. And now, these Zuis were made because of his own actions, and now they are in space. So this is why, here also Jane is abusing the BP here, killing a lot of engineers. So Doctor really being under pressure now. This Zui is coming in. The ACU here is in a good position. Hasn't noticed it. There was no... Well, there was a radar here, but yeah, I think Doctor is busy early. Or else where it took a second or two for the ACU to start moving. It was also stuck in the pigeon. So this... do get 3 kills and take 2 maxes, and there will be, I suppose, not presently, but there's still left over Zuis quite a bit. Yeah, there will be more drops. Meanwhile, Laneless also finishing up his ARS. So yeah, that's one of the main reasons why I advocate against newer players or noobs in general to not make this kind of flashy, aggressive approaches to, island steal, copy some pro builder, or do some rush, or any kind of fancy proxy-based drops or something. Because when you do that kind of stuff, you have to make it really well so that you inflict lethal damage. Like damage, you will lose your investment eventually. You will lose your proxy base, you will lose your units you drop, and so forth. But it's really like doing all that stuff, like building a proxy base or doing the drops. It's a lot of mass that you invest in all the units, the transports, the factories, whatever you do, and it's like when they die, okay, they leave behind reclaim, alright, that's one part, but when you build those units, it's away from the early economy that will progress, and it's like it has a scaffolding effect on the progress in the later game. If you go very early on the drops and make these offensive units, in early game, when you decide that the 1000 mass, put it into drop units or drops or anything like that, or the max upgrades. That's the period of time when it makes a lot of difference. And when you're like late a couple minutes on your eco progression in the early game, like I'm talking very early aggression here, maybe not at minute 10 and 11 and so forth anymore, but in general, that's going to have a pretty big impact. So if those drops and whatever it was, the offensive playstyle you took doesn't yield like considerable results, it's not very good, and it usually turns against yourself, because when it gets wiped out here, by the way, nice movement from these RDs. They avoided the PD here. Laneless saw that the PD was being built here by a bunch of NGs, so they killed 2 maxes here, skirted from the water side, go up. He knows that the ACU is here, so he can't advance this direction anymore. Bear in mind, Laneless doesn't have vision, but he's, if you think about it, you can logically figure out what's where. The ACU is here, so he moves to the only direction where there is no opposition, and he can still get 2 more max kills. Will get killed by these Vultus, but that's alright. Quite nice damage, so like 6 or 7 maxes killed. But here, meanwhile he was doing this Sui stuff. He ran kind of out on frigates, and Dogler had amassed quite a bit of frigates here and now crushed the naval position here. Well, not crushed, but wiped out the build power and the few stray frigates he had, but Foley comes in with a couple broadswords, tech 3, so this is a considerable help, massive help, mass-wise from the air. And now things will be stale. Laneless still has quite a bit of reclaim here, so with this back and forth play ball here and Laneless successfully causing some alright damage, I think the playing field is quite even here now. Meanwhile, yeah, you can see both these players, these guys have mostly Tech 2 mexes, and the front players went full intact ecoing, like mass ecoing. And so both of these guys, Blackheart and Petrick, already have completely Tech 3 eco, so basically both of them already produce more mass than this rock or bridge player, which means that if they went all in on the ocean, their impact would be more significant than the actual player playing the lane. If we are allowed to use that silly lane terminology. You can also wonder why Foley is being so aggressive. I mean, he's already making a lot of help. He's made multiple broadswords, stingers, Januses. He's helping here. He's also abusing VMC build power for Rins, so he's being all over the map, helping Laneless defend, helping Rins attack here. And normally you would perhaps ask the question, by the way, Petrick is building a GC, we'll get back to that soon. Normally you would ask the question, like, isn't that overextension? I mean, there's so much that you can build before you'll fall behind on ASF, because all of these units reduces the amount of ASF you can have by this point. But I think Foley is a part of match-up reading as well, and really knowing who your opponents and players in general are. I think Foley here is correctly and confidently asserting his dominance in their position. He is the stronger player, definitely out of these two, and especially on air, where it's not because Foley would necessarily be a strong air player. I think he's like even on any spot, he doesn't have a weakness or strength in that sense, but Star especially is weak on air. So Foley knows he has quite a lot of area. He can overextend himself without risking losing the air position, but there is finally a limit to how far he can extend. And with all these Tech 3 gunships and Genesis, I think he will be approaching to that level, to that limit of how far he can go with the air support. But I don't think he has yet reached it, but he is getting close to it now. But yeah, this is also a part, like it takes confidence and sort of knowledge of what you can achieve, what the boundaries in which you can play, and Foley here very correctly reads the matchup, and yeah, boldly assists his sides without risk of losing his air control, because if he was unsure, he probably wouldn't like to make this much help and try to yeah, because the drawback from losing your air control would be kind of huge, especially in situations like this. I have to pause because something very interesting is going on here, because if he would lose his air in a situation where Laneless really doesn't have anything to defend himself with, it would be really bad, because then Star could make Torps and Douglas could come in again, and then that would be definitely game or end, at least for this navy. But however, that was not the case, because Foley knows what he is doing. So here we have something interesting. I think Petrick, he didn't really go for, neither of these players went for any like helping on either side of the ocean, but Petrick started going Tech 4 right away, and I suppose Blackheart started the Megalith because he saw this GC. So if you look at Blackheart's perspective, Douglas on his side has suffered from an early brawling. He's behind. His eco is not that great. There's low-tech navy units here. Both of these players are much more irrelevant than they would be in a normal eco-centric game. So from Blackheart's perspective, he knows air's position can't help him, can't make gunships, can't make bombers, can't make anything. Foley will deny it. Foley is the stronger air player and will definitely, at this point in the game, wipe out any air assistance that Star might conceive of. Also, Blackheart looking to his north side, it's very obvious with VMC, the weaker player, in a weaker spot playing against the stronger player in a stronger spot. He's not going to get help from here. Doggler normally would be able to help him, but due to the early game, how it transpired here, Doggler is not in a space, in a position to help him, so Blackheart could see very early, I think, that he can only help himself. There's nobody else to assist him out of this, so when Patrick started going for this Tech 4, Blackheart can do nothing else but make a Tech 4 his own. And that might also have been, I think, what Patrick was thinking about. If he plays this way, he will force Blackheart to respond to him and keep his hands out of both of these oceans, which is fundamentally good for Patrick, because when you look at Patrick's side, his North Ocean will definitely win. I haven't introduced the players, but you'll have to believe me on this. Will definitely win. So if he can keep Blackheart's hands away from North Sea, it's good, because that's a guaranteed victory here. And especially with how the early game transpired, I think Patrick has also reason to be confident in Laneless. Laneless is a very strong player, and with this fortunate succession of events here, I think Laneless is able to stand for his own for quite a long time, so Patrick doesn't have to worry about that side either, especially if he can get Blackheart's hands away from that. And Foley is able to help Laneless. So in this way, I think Patrick, in a very genius manner, so to speak of, if you allow me to dramatize a little bit, sort of neutralizes the strongest player on the north side completely by taking the initiative and going full Tech 4. He will start the second GC here. He's going to go full GC all day. And here we see a remarkable piece of micro, I think. Let me unpause. So, look. The megalith hasn't been scouted, but it doesn't need to be scouted. Patrick knows Blackheart is making it here. Like, this is the ACU. Something's been built. This Tech 1 engine says it's big. This is the megalith. It hasn't been scouted, but it's visible. Like, this is the megalith. So now he has two choices. He doesn't know how far it is. There's no vision. If it's just about to be complete, this GC is in a very bad spot. If it isn't, he can walk up and mop the space because the megalith will be too far away. So he can just walk straight up and risk the megalith getting to his back and then killing the GC for free. Or he can just, if he's lucky, then he'll go over to the base and probably end the game because he kills Blackheart entirely. But he has a third option as well, the second option. He can stop here and ground fire the ACU or the megalith while it's being built. And if it's not very close to being completed, he might be able to kill the megalith or reduce its HP so much that by the time it's complete, the GC already win the standoff. As you probably know, the megalith is the stronger unit and will win in a standoff when we win against the Galactic Colossus. So now let's see what Patrick does. So he's going forward, he notices the megalith here, he stops, yes, now. So he kills the NGs first to reduce the BP so it gets built slower. There is a marker, and he starts ground firing here. But he immediately starts ground firing here because he already noticed that when he ground fired here, Blackheart didn't move. If his ACU was under fire, he would have moved or he would die in seconds. So then he beamed here a little bit, but it's uncertain. There's no way of knowing if it connects. If it's too deep here, the beam won't connect. We weren't in this perspective and we didn't see. I think it did connect, but there's no way of knowing if he spends any seconds firing here when it doesn't connect. It's really bad for him because then he's wasting the precious seconds that he still might have to walk forward. If he gets far enough here, he'll be out of range from this megalith. But the megalith does get complete just in time, and now it attacks the GC in the back, so this is really bad. Now this GC is definitely dead. So this was unfortunate, I think, but you can't expect anyone to play it better because you would simply have to know things that are impossible to know. It's you're playing on chances. So unfortunate for Patrick, but I think this whole scenario here was rather interesting, and well, now this megalith will kill their GC, but Blackheart has already started Monkey, because I assume in response to the second GC being built, because this damaged Megalith will die to this GC, so the Monkey will be a supplement. Supplement this half health Megalith, below half health Megalith, and now this GC will again be the underdog, but he will make a second GC, to which Blackheart will have to make a second Megalith, to which Patrick will make a fourth GC, and so forth, and it's going to be actually quite riveting. Now maybe we have a small window of chance to introduce the players. So on front we have Blackheart, no doubt familiar to everyone, known as possibly the greatest ever player in this game. But on Setons, that's a title that remains contested. Blackheart is arguably not the greatest on Setons. He is arguably the greatest ever player all around, especially in 1v1 and ladder. Which is in some terms sense is the most competitive aspect of this game, where the individual skill is most reliably tested. But on Setons, a couple of rivals challenge Blackheart's supremacy here, and they are namely Galactic Fear, who isn't present in this game, as well as SC Account, or Doggler, known these days as Zhang Yu, even though he has played for 2 years now. Well, that was simply his most recent used nickname. Zhang Yu being kind of an only Setons pro of the old school, extremely powerful on this map. So, and also there's players like Patrick and so forth. So, but definitely he's sharing, if not the top one slot, then one of the highest ranking slots here. So, Blackheart really strong player. VMC, a very classic Setons player of the middle pro rating, 15 to 1800. Known for strong airplay, especially in earlier days, not so much for his navy, so there's a bit of pickle here. Styrbjorn is the self-proclaimed king of Setons. Some Setons fanatic who played also in GPG days and in his FAF days became a sort of a subject for ridicule by all the other pros on Setons, because he was a really stubborn player. Who sort of, he had devised build orders for himself, which according to himself were the best ones ever, and he was unwilling to adapt when the meta evolved around him and he became outdated. Here he gifted ASF to Doggler, because Doggler is the stronger micro player, but he didn't tell Doggler that he gifted them, so Doggler didn't know he had the ASF, during which Foley, we weren't in Foley's perspective, but he could see this blipping, so he knew that something was going on. They were gifted, so he went instantly in when there was a confusion on north side and no control. See, Douglas says that was dumb to give air, so it dies. Foley immediately seized the opportunity, went in, and Douglas didn't really have a chance to fight. He didn't even know he has the control. He was probably focused over here. So yeah, why you give me? You have no. So he gets fight. I can't run. So fucking dumb. Douglas kind of pissed off. Oh, that's kind of bad now. Foley gets away, he gets a free air win, so he doesn't have to really pay anything for making all that early assistance. So here, as I said, now there's already 2 megas third underway, and we have 2 GZs, but soon 3 and maybe more after that. So both of these players are locking themselves entirely, which I think still is far better in Patrick's position. He's losing far less being involved in this arms race game here. Whereas for North side, Blackheart being locked in this bouncy game, it's a more remarkable loss, because both of these navies could use his help, but he's unable to do so. If he stops this participating in this race 4, he'll get wiped over by an army of GCs. So excellent thinking and strategy from Patrick, I think. However, yes, Styrbjorn became a source of ridicule, because he was very stubborn and very, he couldn't adapt. He wasn't willing to adapt to the players evolving around him, and the players really evolved quickly and soon became better than him. But he still thought, I think, that he's the best. So yeah, it was kind of a special case, but still very experienced player who knew all the normal situations and with what units to respond to what. But he was kind of slow and with inefficient approaches to build orders and some other. He was fundamentally a very stubborn player, so. That was his problem, but for his rating 1900 was where he usually at these times hovered around. It's fairly accurate. It's weak on air, but it was some kind of reliability at least that you can rely on Starburn, because he had massive experience of several thousand games, so he could definitely mop the floor with any noobs like you would expect. And yeah, said knew the standard tactics and so forth. He also was a rather ecocentric player, so it was also his problem sometimes getting rushed because he didn't really make any units early on. Here he is helping though with some frigates and torp launchers, which is nice, so Lineless can hold out a little longer. But Dogler is a very interesting player. I think he's my favorite ever player on Setons, and I think he's the best ever. But that's simply my opinion. It might not necessarily be true. Also known as, mostly known as SC account, featured also in some old Guile casts. I think he's monstrously efficient, like a machine. Very good friends with Blackheart apparently, because they almost always play on the same side. Both these guys come from Germany, so they might have known each other in real life, though I don't know the details about that. But a very efficient sort of machine-like performer with a really foul mouth. He was really passionate about this game as well. Like the teammate roasting from Dogler was one of the best parts in these games, at least to me. I mean, some players might disagree, and some players nowadays would call it toxic behavior and report him and get him banned, but that's something I very strongly disagree with. I don't think Dogler was at all a toxic player. I don't think there's any place for such an adjective like toxicity in this game. It's simply not true. I find that Dogler was a passionate player instead. He's sort of treating this game with a sort of severe decorum and respect that it deserves. It is a very beautiful game, and he was always upset when players were sort of mishandling this masterpiece and doing dumb things or not focusing properly. I think it's we can see similar behavior from Foley when he's really passionate. But yes, Dogler was around 2 to 2.5 thousand even at his highest points usually, so very high rated player. I think he is a little underrated actually at 2.1 thousand, at least for Setons. I think he hardly played other maps. There's some loyalist spam also to supplement here. I think Blackheart might have been looking for a chance to get in, but these 4 GCs are enough to stop. If this invasive force dies, it's a huge reclaim, so he can afford to attack. But yes, I think that's the important distinction between claiming some players are toxic or not, and I think it's kind of silly that people even pay attention to that these days. Or like people, I don't really know even how to begin. That's focusing on the entirely wrong things, on policing in-game chat and in-game behavior. That's not something you should meddle with at all. Like everything is allowed on the battlefield. In the chat, in everything, and if you can't take that, you shouldn't play the game. That's pretty much my opinion. It might be a different thing on the forums and so forth, but not in the game. I think here we need to let people. We need to give the passionate people their chance to shine and really show their fire. But here VMC is going for Tempests. I think he did have some omens, but they got killed. So Rins is also Napalm, known as Napalm around this rating, but I think he did play quite a bit of Setons, so a more experienced, a more well-rounded player than VMC for sure, and on stronger spots. So this is kind of a piece of cake, though it's already minute 32, and I think Rins should have already won, especially with Foley harassing the weaker player here. But okay, Star is helping as a battleship even, and these torp launchers playing effectively earlier on. But Rins is definitely taking his time, and he has 2 nukes and he's building an Avosa. And here we can see Laneless also starting in Avosa. It's strange. Laneless had a very good run here. He went for his... He now has 2... he took UEF from Foley. Now he's making Summits and he's making Destroyers from Seraphim. Looked kind of confident. I think Doggler momentarily had not that much Navy when he was still ecoing up from the sort of catastrophic early game. But now we can already see Doggler has way more total mass here, and from Laneless' perspective, this is not where he should be fighting anymore. He can keep the fight here for a little while. Even though he could kill some of these galaxies, look how much closer... I mean, when the galaxies roll off here, they're almost immediately within firing range. Laneless can keep this position for a little longer, but every unit that dies from both sides will end up as Doggler's reclaim field, because he will
strategic launch detected.
More battleships due to the logistics advantage. So what Laneless should really be doing is not pull back a little bit and fight from here. He should immediately pull established defensive line back here, because it's like 7 to 3 battleships or something like so. Well, yeah, he has 3. Yeah, he has 3, and Doggler at least has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and maybe a couple more coming in here. It's a nuke launch, by the way, and I think it's going for middle, and Blackheart doesn't have SMD. Star's not very active on scouting, that's also another fault. So it's being scouted, but maybe very late, and there's no ping, no marker, so Blackheart might even not have been aware of these nukes, so he's kind of huge. Now he gets nuked. But he's still okay, at least, like, he is going to be able to stop this. With all these loyalists and these megalites, Petrick can't advance either. But he might soon amass enough tech 4 to roll over what Blackheart has here. But now Rins is finally won. But yes, Laneless didn't pull early enough, because now, as you can see, now he's already beginning to crumble quite severely. He should have pulled even earlier than when I said he should pull away. He should have established here, because when you look at the map, Laneless has no reason to even try to win. It's obvious now. Like Doggler is in full eco, he is in full speed, he has the full momentum, he is in rock, he is one of the greatest ever players. It's self-evident that Laneless can't keep up with him. It's impossible, especially if he goes and attacks here, where the production lines from his own naval factories are so long. So when he looks at the map, he sees it's already won. By the way, the Avosa is complete from both players at once. Foley worried that a third of his ASF has no fuel. This provoking here, Megalith's provoking here. So they might go now with 2 Avosas to do something. But yes, from Laneless' perspective, he doesn't need to win. So the best thing he can do, and he can't win, that's self-evident. The best thing he could do is to try to prolong this side for as long as possible, because the longer you have the disparity, where you have won on one side and haven't lost the other side, the better. Then your chances of winning the entire game increase, because this navy here can wipe out half of the eco from north side. So then you will, if this side still lives and protects also the front, you have 4 ways to 2 economies, and you can make so much more stuff. It snowballs it an avalanche, and you win no matter what, if you can keep the situation in that advantageous situation for long enough. But Laneless sort of fucks it up here, because he was being too assertive here and too far, and sort of losing the advantage that he had after that lucky early game, or not lucky but fortunate early game, quicker than he might have otherwise. And he did make a Avosa, which is 50,000 mass away from any navy that he might have produced, which I think was a mistake. You have to remember that Avosa is a powerful unit, by the way. Now Blackheart is control and is coming in to challenge Foley finally. Avosa is a powerful unit, but it takes a lot of coordination, and I think this is now a mistake, that both Avosas are controlled separately. They should definitely be given over to Foley, because only Foley will know where he has placed his ASF move order. That's the most important thing. You can't go with Avosa and place a move order here when it looks like, okay, yeah, the ASF got your back, because if the ASF don't have the same move order before the Avasa is going, this won't accelerate, and they turn and accelerate quickly enough, and the end result
Strategic
will be
launch detected.
the Avasa sort of slipping away from the ASF, by which in that window of time it can get sniped immediately if this player is active. And when you have these ASFs in the hand of a player with 2,400 rating, you can rest assured that he will be active and he will snatch that opportunity whenever it appears. So it's a 50,000 mass unit that will get sniped immediately if it's not perfectly protected, and it can only be protected by the ASF cloud, unless you have complete air dominance before, unless you have fort air and completely eradicated all of the enemy air force. Then you can sort of move around freely. But if that's not the situation, you have to be extremely cautious with your controlling on the Avosas. And here Foley is doing the right thing. He's pushing away Blackheart. Blackheart knows, assumes he has less, which is pretty true. He's avoiding the air fight. Also these Tech 3 gunships here. So Foley sends in these Tech 3 gunships to pull Blackheart's air here to skirt for an opportunity to save Douglas Navy from this bombardment, which is kind of severe. This many Tech 3 gunships really do damage even on battleships. So it gave a lot of time for these two Avosas to do a decisive act, but they didn't, because they are in the hands of players who are not really confident about Laneless. He has attention here, and Rins is not very confident in his ability to use such a responsible unit, because this at the moment is effectively the game end of the south side. So this is commonly what you go in now. Go in, he says. Go in already. Commonly what you see, the lower players are not, they are very timid in this moment in handling the most responsible units, because they're scared that if they don't deflect damage, they fail, they kill the units somehow, then it's embarrassing. So they are indecisive. So I think this should have been given definitely over to Foley. And here we come to the second point. It was too late to build Avosas. The Avasa is not a unit that can deal meaningful damage anymore after minute 30. If everybody has huge mass, that's the most important factor, not the minutes, but if everybody has a fully developed base. Especially, look, SAMs everywhere, Tech 3 Seraphim shields everywhere with 21,000 HP. Even 2 bombs don't break a single Tech 3 shields. It's futile. So these two Avosas, this 100,000 mass, they broke 1 Tech 3 shield, didn't kill a single structure, and got killed by SAMs alone. Granted, there was a few ASF in the middle, but Foley flying in to swat down these two would still not have given another pass for either one of these, and it would also have cost Foley a lot of ASF into the SAMs. Also, his gunships got killed while his ASF patrolling here, trying to look out if he would have a reasonable, cause to go in and protect the Avosas, but they don't really accomplish anything. So that was a complete failure, and that's a really significant setback. I mean, it still looks good. I mean, Rins is really being slacking here. He won WMC ages ago, but the economy is still alive, which shouldn't be the case. He should immediately wipe out the economy here to reduce the total mass output for Team North. But Blackheart's base has been eliminated, and I know I missed some action here. I think there's a nuke landing in the middle, and one megalith died, and the rest of the megaliths were hiding in the water. And the 6 GCs and the Harb army is going through now, headed to Star, and Star has started spamming chickens for defense, and there's also a GC from WNC that he was able to complete because he was able to keep on to his economy for so long. Rins was lacking here. But it's still alright because, well, not alright, but somewhat okay, because Southside has one more full economy compared to Northside. Laneless made a second Avosa, which I think was definitely a mistake. I mean, they just saw 2 Avosas didn't kill a single thing. This airbase is very well protected. Tech 3 Seraphim shields, SAMs everywhere. Not gonna work. Not what you should be doing. This is a 50,000 mass donation, and they already donated 100,000 mass. So these are the things that actually can affect the entire outcome of the game, and luckily he's not going to Star Space, so he can deal damage in Dogfish Space. Douglas, I think, is surprisingly weakly prepared here for a play of this caliber. He has been very busy here, I know, but for a legendary player of this quality, I would have sort of expected to have shielding and more SAMs, because he must be aware of Styre not having air control. I mean, here this is a snipe attempt, but it fails now. Well, we'll see. It depends on the control here. This will catch up. He should have paused it maybe earlier. He should have stopped and let these. They have too much inertia. They will fly past. But if you start turning, it will be perfect for the ASF, because the Avos has great engine, so it flies really fast. So if you move forward or start turning, it has a lot of speed along the ASF chasing it to stay on the tail for an extended duration of time, and then they are able to kill it. Of course, if there's enough ASF, any contact will immediately swat out the Avasa like a fly. But this amount, if you stop the Avasa entirely, the ASF has too much speed. They can't deaccelerate quickly enough, and they will just they may shoot once and then they slip past the Avasa, and it takes a lot of time for them to turn around and come back. By whence the ASF chasing, Polish ASF chasing this ASF would have caught up and killed the Styre's stray ASF before they would have been able to kill the Avasa. So it's one of the monkeys. The first monkey we saw is walked all the way from here, attacking Foley. I think we'll be confident and assume that Foley is able to defend himself. Laneless gets killed, by the way, by that monkey, I suppose. But Dogler did prepare 2 megaliths to defend against this incursion, and Petric did split up his 6 GCs. There were 2 chickens from Styre completed in time, so this is the GC from VMC is still alive. He's trying to keep himself alive, back to some PDs and shields. Maybe this chicken won't get completed anymore. Now he turns around. He's really nowhere to run. He has to turn around, I suppose. He's trying to go somewhere safe, but I think he has to try to stop this delay this as long as he can, because now he does that. So all of these GCs are attacking this GC, and this GC will tie these ones up, giving it enough time for this megalith from Dogler to come in, and this is really bad. Oh, it's a megalith from one of the megaliths came up from here and walked through. So this is kind of huge what's going on here, because 6 GCs to 7 GCs considering this one, 2 chickens and 2 megaliths. So there's hundreds of thousands of mass in reclaim, in addition to the Avosas that we already had. Even this Avosa flew straight to Dogler's lab, so the north side has had like 500,000 of mass donated to them directly. It was rather unfortunate, and I think Patrick could have possibly played this a little bit better. I'm not sure if he was aware of the megaliths. I think he should have, but it's understandable that you sometimes don't see all of these things, because he might only have seen them as a blip when some scout opportunity flew past. But he split the GCs. I think 4 went up and 2 down here, and the chickens killed 1 of the 4, and the 2 GCs here lost to these megaliths, and they even took veterancy out of those. So if he had moved them as a group of 6, I think then the 6 GCs could have killed all of these, and that would have been game. But this is the way that it played out. Perhaps a mistake from Patrick, and Dogler had very nicely prepared this in defense. And he hardly suffered really that much damage from the Avosa, so Patrick still holding to some of his eco, but is finally going to really start losing it now. And at least VMC now has lost almost all of his eco, though still not everything. Even Foley has a nuke. And really the biggest lackluster now for Northside is not only that they made 3 Avosas that achieved nothing, it's that Rins has won so long ago. It took a long time for him to destroy these economies, and he still hasn't the game under. I mean, if that he won by minute 32, he would then have started immediately to work on some definite clear vision of how to end the game, such as amass strat bombers or start a super game ender. By minute 42 he would have completed anything. He could have a Yolona here, or he could have amassed 75 strat bombers, which can, by the way, break any amount of shields and kill any commanders no matter where they are, unless they're here in the pond. But that amount of strats could have wiped out the entire base from Styre. So now Doggler still hasn't touched this massive navy reclaim here. He doesn't need to. They have so much reclaim on the north side. Let's see at numbers. Only 70,000, but Doggler is still having problems even using his mass. He's making hives and quantum gateways to try to spend the mass on real location SCCUs. Blackheart sitting on 150,000 reclaim. Styre on 170,000, offloading a lot of mass. He's not able to use most of his factories died, so he's offloading all this mass to suppose Blackheart is really spending it the most of it now because he has no eco himself and he has this expensive production going on here. And VMC sitting at a meager 50,000, and look, there's still like, I don't know, several 100,000 left. So they can do whatever they want, pretty much, if they just have the BP to even use that. So now Foley comes in with an absurd 40 broadswords, and he was able to complete because he had complete air dominance. Even after the Alvasa sort of disaster. The gunships that died here earlier, I think Foley did fight air eventually there and won. Had this decisive air victory over Styre. And now since Doggler still didn't like build preparatory SAMs, now it's this is the now he suffers for it because this 40 broadswords are gonna inflict a lot of damage. He now starts building the SAMs everywhere, but it might be a little bit too late. Though it depends on the targeting. I think this broadswords should definitely target the SAMs. They can kill them really quickly. But it's flak going on here, so this is a no-go zone very quickly. No use trying to kill the megaliths here. It's just bad targeting. It's no point. These megaliths are doing nothing. They can't attack either, and no top side won't ever have enough tech force to break through 3 megaliths and GC. A chicken, I think. Yes, chicken here. So they get taken out here by combination flak and so forth, but it's still it was good damage inflicted. Not the Mexis, but he did kill the SMD. So now
strategic launch detected.
Should fire the nukes. Kill this. And this
strategic
they
launch
have so many
detected.
nukes. Yes, they still have 2 left, and soon 1 here. They just fire all the nukes and like wipe out Doggler entirely. That's the only chance that they have. Well, okay, not the only chance. I think actually in this point it looks like the south side has definitely won the game. They have so many cards up their sleeve. Nice Corsair snipe. Gets the power grid partially. But I think it was also TMLs from here. But yeah, I mean, they don't have enough tech force here to assault. Patrick still has 2 GCs and there's 2 chickens from Rins defending. This is well defended. They have had longer. They have had one ocean for longer.
Detected.
Now they're wiping out also Doggler and Blackheart's new base. I think Blackheart might even die. Oh no, that's not his ICU. Don't even know where he is. Oh, he's here. Okay. So now Doggler is without a base effectively. There's still nuke the island here and this position as well. Not that Doggler really even needs the Mexes at the moment, because, you know, there's infinite reclaim left, pretty much. But it will, okay, not infinite, it will run out eventually. One also went here to kill any tech force they might have been blending here. And it did land on the megalith, so now this megalith is completely useless, only 8,000 HP left. So it looks really good for Southside. They can just, you know, continue in this way and build this Yolona that they have nicely started. And that will definitely be a game. They will complete Yolona and GG. There's no base here. It'll it's not that easy to rebuild it because there's so many nuke launchers here. If you just rebuild it, it will get immediately nuked again. So you have to make SMDs, multiple SMDs, and load them really quickly, which can be really difficult. Dogland does have a few nuke subs here, which are not loading. He doesn't have them the energy for it now because there's no power. This base is well defended. This chicken is completely suiciding here. Well, it's not too bad. It's only one chicken. But as you can see, they have no plans to start even start any game ender. I don't think they're in a position to. They have a lot of the reclaim. They got 250,000. Okay, there's still a lot left, and stars in full mass power. But a lot of the reclaim they got, they invested in the rebuilding as well as bolstering the defenses. They still have a lot of mass to really start going quickly at some super game ender here. Which is a competitive decision, and I think the only solution that they have left now. But it's, even though they have an absurd amount of mass left, it's gonna be hard to compete with this. Rins has an impressive eco, and they are already halfway done on the Yolona. And Foley's entire base is also intact, which is really good. Even though they don't really have access to any significant amount of reclaims. You can see the reclaim numbers from all of these players are really low, with, you know, all of the north side running basically in 150,000, Dogler 200,000, Styron 260,000, 250. Even Blackheart hasn't had a base for a long time on 230,000. That's absurd. So they've reclaimed almost a million mass combined. Not quite, but getting close. So let's see if they have scouted actually. Well, they see it, but I doubt that they have seen it, because you have the target mouse over it before you can actually see that it's there. You don't see anything from here, so I doubt they have seen it. But then they know South is going to build, is already building, has been building a game ender for some time. I mean, what else would they be doing? There's no new invasion. There's nothing going on. They know, and it's either a Mave or a Yolona. I'd go for, usually I'd prefer Mave, but Yolona I think can work here, because Foley is coding and they can see there's only one SMD, even if it's fully loaded. Okay, there's a second SMD, even if this this could be almost fully loaded, it's no problem. One Yolona can easily overwhelm it. And if they only now start building the SMDs, or soon, it might already be too late. You need to have the mass SMDs early enough to be able to stop Yolona. It's still a little bit, a little more needed to complete it. This GC goes in to wipe out the TML base, and the SSU trying to build a fire base here. Now it has to dodge the Galaxy fire to not get killed. So nice sort of counterplay from Patrick, like preemptively disabling this fire base before it can cause any nuisance. This is a perfect example of what players should be doing after they lose their base. There's a lot of ways that you can still be extremely useful. If you lose your base, you can start building a second base, mass fabs, and sort of try to hover up some, scrap up any kind of little mass income you still can, be active with reclaim, and use any leftover units you have, especially Tech Force, to actively sort of defend. It saves a lot of attention and from Foley, especially a player of this caliber. And I mean, Foley can look, okay, Patrick is controlling two GCs in front of his base. He can he can confidently focus his direct his attention elsewhere, because he knows that the defense of his base is trusted in really capable hands. But this, it's sort of even the activity of a player who has been deprived of the space is of a momentous importance in many game situations, and especially in Setons, I think. You should never give up playing, if you might not have any effective base anymore. As long as you have your ACU and units, there's some way you can make yourself useful. And I think a lot of players sort of undervalue that option. But the Yolona is basically complete, and here we have it queued from start, so they start their game ender by once this is already complete, and now it must have been scouted. I'm not sure if there's no marker. Yeah, YOLO nearly done is from Rins. I don't think if these guys have seen it, but this was one of Douglas' plans. He has made 70 sailings from all of the reclaim he's been getting. He rebuilt his base, and he has 70 sailings. So even though this defense, 2 chickens, oh well, Seton's outrange chickens, so the chickens might actually have considerable trouble. And the Fat Boy is a very good unit because it has longer range, but it was too close. I think Foley should have moved it back earlier. It might have taken it by surprise because now it's eating fire and might die here. Blackheart teleported. I'm sorry I missed that. I might have seen it from here, but this needs to get quickly away because this is the best weapon that Foley has against these. I mean, 70 items is so much that they can already kill 2 chickens really quickly, and they both fire nukes. Laneless fires, Rins fires 1, Foley fires 1, and they go in the fucking same spot. They go in the same spot, and this is a huge waste. And the Yolona gets killed by Blackhearts. There was a really poor shielding. You need Tech 2 shields to overlap it. I can show you how it's done. Teleport comes in the... well, let's see here. I will get into it soon. This GC will be dead meat, but he can maybe... well, he might be able to kill a few and stop this from advancing. What Foley needs is another Fat Boy or Tech 2 RD, or even Ravagers maybe, even though Ravagers also have shorter range. Just enough air to kill these. But this is actually a problem. 7 Senims is nothing to brush off that easily. The nuke didn't kill that many. But this is the way you need to think about shielding. It's not about just having shields like this, oh, so many Tech 3 shields. That's not going to achieve anything if you don't think about it at all. What's actually going on when someone teleports in? This is a very important thing. If they teleport, as you can see, look at the range on here. This is the Tech 3 shield. If you have another one here, it pretty doesn't accomplish anything at all, because there will still be a spot in between the intersecting lines. You can see, I can't select now the other shield as well, but you can see where they would intersect. So there is still a position where you can teleport, namely around in here, for example, where you are simultaneously under both of the shield domes, and neither shield dome is in the way of the laser beam. So it's shielded, but it accomplishes nothing because the AC unit teleports under the shield will immediately connect with the Yolona, which is what happened. And even despite there being a teledef, the 4000 DPS from the Cyber ACU was enough to immediately kill the Yolona. It took only like 3 seconds to kill this. 3 seconds, yeah, 3 times 4. 3 seconds was enough, and then Blackheart died. But you need actually either place Tech 3 shields farther away or Tech 2 shields here closer, in a way that you have shields on every angle, sort of that they sort of protect it. Look at the orange line. See what I'm doing? No matter where, if you have a circle of Tech 2 or Tech 3 shields farther away, if you have a circle in this way, there isn't a single spot in which any commander can teleport without at least one shield dome being being in between the laser beam and the Yolona. So that shield HP will, it will demand extra seconds from the cyber laser weapon to blast through that shield before it will connect with the game ender. So that's why the shield placing is important, because those few extra seconds is all the time you probably need for your tele defense to kill the ACU. So this was a classic shielding failure. And here, as I predicted, the GC and 2 chickens are dead by the Satons because they have this huge range advantage. The Fat Boy is now the only line of defense that there is, but this one Fat Boy is not gonna be enough. He started the second Fat Boy, but it might be too late. There's such a fucking huge load. There's 43 Salems left still. It's really quite a bit. This Fat Boy needs to get away. The Tech 3 shield will buckle in very soon. But even after all these momentous failures that the south side has had with all the losses and so forth, they're still ahead. They even lost the Yolona completely, but they're still ahead because the wreck remains, so they can start rebuilding it from 50%. There's a nuke. I don't know where this is going. I missed it. Maybe here or maybe Ireland. I don't know. airfight going on, and now after all these units, 2 fat boys, a million tech 3 gunships, it finally looks like Foley might not have the superior numbers anymore. Which is not really, this is certainly not Foley's fault at all. I mean, the amount of help he has put for his team is quite amazing, and it is so frustrating when even that effort is not sufficient. Oh, so it's going for the Salem production. Okay, so he's still making more Salems, but this nuke, well, this is actually pretty okay. It will put an end to the Salem spam. But as I said, even after all these huge mistakes, south side is still looking good. They can even afford to lose the space now. I think it will actually, Foley will actually die to these Salems. At least this entire portion of the base will die. Because they only need this thing online, and they just need to breach here. If they get the first nukes off. Rin still has 2 launchers with pretty soon 3 nukes. With the help of 3 normal nukes, maybe 1 from Foley, if they fire all the normal nukes in addition to Yolana here, it will definitely breach through. And once the Yolana gets through, it's GG. 1 nuke wipes out the entire base. It has a lot greater range than normal nukes do. All these SMDs being built here are kind of new. This is the first one with 3. Second one now, 0, 0. This is also quite old here. It is 4. Okay, so they need a couple rounds, but if they fire all of the, and this is 1, if they fire all of the normal nukes in addition, it only takes a few seconds. Though, yeah, Foley had to waste this nuke here to stop the cancer of Salems, and I think he reclaimed it. Yeah, he reclaimed this nuke to get the mass back, because he is assuming he's not gonna load another one anymore. Well, they still have 2 nukes here, and Rins, I think, should by now also easily have done something else, like loaded BS nukes, but he's reclaimed his battleships. He could have a strat bombers here to kill, like 20-30 strat bombers to kill 1 old SMD. Would be huge. But it's actually looking now like even VMC has built some SMDs here, of which one if loaded, even though it's kind of a little bit off, it's kind of not. This one at least is good effort, but it's a little bit off, considering Yolana will fire from here. In this angle, I think this SMD here is off.
Strategic launch detected.
Off the range, but I actually...
Strategic launch detected.
Fucking hell, man. So loud. They do know of the Yolana. They can start firing here. What I would personally do is spam a lot more SMD and actually just ignore the space entirely. Chances are you're not gonna break through at this point anymore.
Strategic launch detected.
So I would just ignore it completely, build myself yellow immunity here, and
strategic launch detected.
Start shooting at this space like a boss. There's no proper defense here. There's not the single SMD. Just kill Dogler entirely. All of the space, all of these units, everything he has, and then
strategic launch detected.
The level you have at that point, you have reduced the map effectively to everything else against this one base, because this Yolona can't keep all of these bases permanently dead. If you remove Dogler's presence entirely from the game, there's no way that the single Yolona can afford to fire here and here and here and here. They can start rebuilding and bolster up the Yolona immunities in the 2 main bases, and then it's gonna be 2 versus 1
strategic launch detected
economies, and you can build a second YOLO way quicker than these guys can. And with 2 YOLOs, you're gonna definitely breach through any defense that they have. But Rins went for the obvious choice and quickly tries to overwhelm the SMDs here, which
strategic
might work.
launch detected.
But I think the approach that I just explained would have been actually the more secure one, even if it takes longer. So they're being shut down, but the problem here is that the south side wasn't so... I think they were cocky. They were so much earlier with the SMD, I mean the YOLO, that they didn't really even properly prepare for the duel. So they had a lot less SMDs. They only had 3 SMDs in total. Now Patrick is desperately trying to build new ones, but this one is soon loaded 1, but this is 1, 1, 2. So only 2 more YOLOs can be blocked here, and it's looking better for north side. now these have been emptied by the few nukes that they fired here, but there's still 2 and 4, so they can still block 3 behind there. And this is very soon loaded one. This
Strategic
is very
launch
soon loaded
detected.
one. It looks really bad.
Strategic launch
But
detected.
interestingly now, Rince makes one of the best decisions in this game so far. He fires here, which is important because this nuke will now, it will connect, and it will, it should connect at least, and it will kill all of these SMDs, and then really these guys are reliant only on these 2 SMDs, and it's now, it's too late to rebuild the SMDs, it's too late. So if they lose all of these SMDs here to this YOLO, which it might do now, then surely it's certain that they will breach through in a couple of volleys, but that might be too late. It's only 2 left, so this is the last YOLO that Southside can stop. Not loaded. Loaded 1, but you need 2. This is loaded 1, you need 2. No, they can't load it. There's also a Maver started, halfway done. Maver would have been great here because I think Maver would definitely have killed this. You can defend against the Maver.
Strategic launch detected.
It's extremely difficult, and you sort of need hives or engineering SACs to have enough build. You need absurd amount of build power to defend against the Maver. So if they had even built a Maver instead of YOLO, it would have been game because they could have sniped this YOLO and then the power and then everything else slowly. Oh man. And the Sailors come again. Final GC here. All and his empty rings quite a little while ago. Well, I suppose you could also name this game The Salt of Foley Origins. This is a really infuriating game from Foley's perspective. An excellent player, and he was active in trying to help, and he put so much effort in every side. And the terrible decisions from his teammates
Strategic launch detected.
sort of nullified that effort that he put in
Strategic
this
launch
game, and
detected.
even more. They actually that lost him the game entirely. Yeah, we lost with 2 losses. There was 100,000 mass at a fairly tender moment period in the game. Early enough still when 100,000 mass is of importance, and that 100,000 didn't do anything at all. They are intense shit when too many. Yeah, this is the thing that people forget. Avosa isn't a unit that has a meaningful role after minute 35, or at any point when everybody on the map has full tech 3 eco, lots of BP to build shields and SAMs wherever they want. That's at that point Avosa is not a meaningful unit anymore. It hasn't a proper role at that point. Avosa it's extremely powerful when you can make it earlier, when you can assault bases that aren't already protected by tech 3 shields and mass SAMs, and when there's no BP present everywhere to just throw them up at will. When you and they
Strategic
made 2 at
launch
the same
detected.
time, it was too late. If they made one Avosa with all the BP that they could have conceived of, they could have made complete the first one perhaps early enough. But even so, I think Avosa was, even at minute 30, was too late. I would have it was Rince's game. Like everybody else was even laneless, even though the Avosa was a bad call from laneless. Laneless was playing excellently, stalling Dogler for so long, who is really a monster on Setons. So it was really on Rince to win the game. He had the easy opponent, he had the strong position. What they should have done is not build any Avosa, simply just the second that Rince won at minute 30, go all out on a game ender. Maver YOLO, they would have completed, like, now it's 62 minutes, they would have completed the Maver YOLO 20 minutes ago, 25 minutes ago. And at that point we saw North had nothing going on for them. They had barely won a sea, or barely about to win a sea. They didn't have air. They had no tech. They were being assaulted by the tech force from Patrick. So they were fully occupied, just trying to stay
Strategic
alive
launch detected.
as it was. And if you added a Maver or YOLO, and in addition to now it breaks through and the space is dead, it would have been instant game. So sort of it was a very clear victory for Southside, but they just loitered around and didn't make anything. They didn't concentrate the force and the mass that they had. It's one of the most important, most crucial principles in this game to have a clear vision of what you want to accomplish, and when you have that vision, you concentrate, you prioritize. It's everything in this game is boils down to prioritizing and concentration. When you think about your economic progression, it's very self-evident that you have an option of advancing your eco. Let's say you have 10 mexes, each of them is tech 2, and you want to go tech 3. Let's assume also you have a magical build power 1000 available, and it's able to move between the mexes. So if you upgrade them in a way that you just start the upgrades simultaneously everywhere, and they upgrade slowly, compared to an approach where you upgrade them one by one and you have all of your available BP super assisting the one that you're upgrading. Even if they would complete, because we have the same amount of mass in play, well, they won't, but even if they somehow define the laws of nature, would complete at the same event, like the same time. I mean, by the time that you have upgraded one by one the final mechs, that is the same second by which the other option where you upgraded 10 simultaneously were complete as well. You would still have gained going one by one, because incrementally as you upgrade them, you already started benefiting from the higher mass production, because when you upgrade them simultaneously, you only get the benefit at that moment when they all suddenly convert into Tech 3. So you're losing a lot by sort of splitting, like you are losing the gains. You're delaying your gains by splitting whatever like power you have to allocate into a single project. It's well, build power is it is a function of time, so you have to allocate it into a singular thing to really be efficient in. Well, I suppose it's a little bit a broad, sort of a roundabout way of explaining it, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say here. What South and especially Rins in this case lacked was the clear vision of how it should have progressed from there, and instead of making anything else, it should have just immediately completed YOLO or Mavor. It would have been a game 100%. It would have been game. So this was a really infuriating loss to powerful cancer in brain for Foley and Petrick, who I think both of them played most of the game really remarkably well. Laneless also held up his own, but Ruins was the weakest link this time around. I know he's a competent player, but this was not one of his best shows, and Dogler and Blackheart. Dogler is the kind of player, if you let him free hands, he will do something nasty as he did with these Salems. So I think this was rather intense game. Man, I'm looking for always good replays, even older ones of any era. If you have Setons only, I'm sorry guys, only Setons on this channel. So as you can probably guess by the YouTube channel name, my FAF name is Hildegard, play around 1800 rating. So I participate in Pro Setons and have participated as well. I started playing by the time that around the time this game is played, by the way, so it's also a history trip for me. But wow, I think we got everything done now. I also presented the players, I think, apart from Southside. Well, I got to present Northside at least, so that was okay. Anyway, yeah, Patrick is familiar to you all as well as his Foley, and they got presented in the game as it was. Now you know what kind of players we're talking about. Very competent players in every spot. Perhaps actually the two weakest players here are playing on North Navy, with VMC being the weakest and Rins the second weakest. But very classic long duration Seton's game. I enjoyed it at least. I hope you did as well. It was quite intense. And yes, I hope to catch you guys soon again whenever I find interesting replay. Thank you for watching.